Step into the spotlight.
Hey guys, Underground Geek here. So how did you guys like Captain Cummings' little video about the new article on Batman White Knight? It's kind of crazy, huh? Um, that just goes to show you there's always been this saying, and it doesn't really encompass what I'm talking about now, but it does. You'll understand. It says when they say things like "never meet your heroes," like Sean Gordon Murphy is not necessarily my hero, but he is a writer that I like, and it's one of those occasions where you should never really talk to them. You know what I mean? You should just take their work, like it or don't like it, and not really meet them in person. It's kind of like if you was to ever hear Tom Cruise talk in person, you would go, "This guy's a psychopath. We need to lock him up right now." But he makes pretty good movies, doesn't he? So it's one of those things. And here's the deal: I would have kept reading White Knight with no problems at all if Sean Gordon Murphy hadn't have opened his mouth. And here's the thing, though. We just weren't talking about the right thing or reading the right things, really. Because Captain Cummings goes to that article, and it's at, I think it's called IO9 Gizmodo, or it's Gizmodo or something like that. And it's a news article or a news website, and this article happens to be written by Evan Narcisse. He is the guy that's writing the new Black Panther. He's the one that I did the video on. If you don't know who I'm talking about, go to my channel, Underground Geek, and check out my video about Black Panther. He's the one writing the Black Panther, and he has no qualifications to write a comic book. It's that same thing that Diversity in Comics was talking about, where they all start doing, they all go into journalism so that they can actually go into the comic book field, which is the exact opposite of what you need to do. But I mean, these people think that just because they write an article, they can write a comic book. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. And they always come from the gaming world, and then they move over to the comic books world. I mean, it's the same cycle. But anyway, so this guy interviews Sean Gordon Murphy, and this article is the blueprint for the undoing of this comic book. Like, if you wanted me to not read this comic book, you come out with this article. And this article came out yesterday at 1:30. It's Batman White Knight. Creator Sean Murphy explains the Joker's plan to save Gotham. Now, here's the thing, though. You could have talked about this and you said, well, I'm trying to do this for this reason, and it's going to be one of those occasions where he's a good guy, but is he really a good guy? And then Batman's going to have to save the day. You know, talk about stuff like that. Don't go into, well, I'm writing this about Black Lives Matter, and I'm writing this about gun rights. Oh, my God, dude. Shut up. Like, they say, oh, well, I'm writing about real issues today. There's been thousands of books written about real issues today. Nobody cares anymore, okay? You're beating these dead horses, these straw men, into the ground. You're the one making these problems because you keep bringing it up. Stop talking about it. Black Lives Matter has been one of those groups that's kind of fell off to the wayside now because it takes you so long to write a comic book. You know, it takes you like months to write a comic book that now they fell off. Everything's kind of cooled down, and now you're bringing it back up again. Like, just go away. Write about Batman and Joker, and just say, well, I'm writing about these deals where Joker's pretending to be a good guy, and is he actually a good guy? We don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. You know, that would have been good, but instead he has to go, I'm writing about these things. Well, and then he goes on and says, I'm a leftist, and I'm a liberal, whatever. And I was like, oh my God, dude, shut up! You're digging a hole. Nobody in the comic book fandom right now wants to hear that kind of stuff. They want to hear right comics. This guy really needs to go to Ethan Van Sciver's channel on YouTube, which is Comic Book Pro Secrets, and listen to him talk. He says, if you want to be successful, you need to put out work and not talk about politics, okay? Just put out your good work, okay? And so he comes up with this article, and it's pretty much solely what I think of him now. It's bad. It's like, you want to give the guy a chance. I'm still going to read the comic to see how issue 2 goes. But this is bad, guys. This is really bad. But here's the thing. There's a couple things in here. He says, here, let's talk about this. He goes, what's the question? He says, I want to start by asking you about the social commentary and police brutality angles in issue 1. Is that an intentional part of design, or is it just a framing for representing the Joker as a hero? Yes, it's intentional. I want to touch on Black Lives Matter and some issues that are ripped from current events. There's even some gun control stuff there. I'm so excited. But I wanted to write it as a centrist with characters on both sides. And it's just like Captain says, if someone says centrist, the word centrist, you know that they're a liberal. I don't want to beat anyone over the head with politics, but let me beat you over the head with politics. I'm super left. Oh, we could have guessed. And I wanted to play that down to reach across the aisle. If you want to reach across the aisle, you would have done this comic book just based on Batman and the Joker with light picks out of politics and then went on. Okay? You wouldn't have said all this stuff. But here's the thing. So this article was written yesterday, and I said, there has got to be some more breadcrumbs out there. There has got to be more quote unquote magic bullets out there to tell us what's going on with this comic book that should have warned us before we got it. You know, we started listening to everybody. We started playing it up in our minds because we wanted this to be good so bad. We saw the artwork. We're just like, oh man, this brings back the days of the animated series. I love it. Let's get this going. Okay, there's another article. This article was written September 7th on the Wired website. And I'm going to put the links in the comments. But it says, these days it makes more sense for Batman to be a villain. What? And I saw that and I was like, oh, this is going to be good. And it says, Batman has been a hero for decades, constantly saving Gotham City from madmen and murderers. But take away the cape of noble purpose and he's actually a terror. Someone capable of causing as much damage as he prevents. And seen through the lens of the 21st century, a time when it's understood that vigilante justice is dangerous. Bruce Wayne's actions don't look much more safe or sane than the Joker's. And in his next incarnation, they're not. Ooh, here we go. And see, that's another thing, too. This has been played off so many times. They have done the fact that Batman might actually be taking things too far every storyline. I'm reading New 52 Batman, and they were one book in, and they were already talking about it. But for Batman the White Knight, writer-illustrator Sean Murphy created a version of Gotham with real modern-day problems, and then let Batman solve them by making him the villain. Not really. We're only one book in, and so far all he's done is capture the Joker and beat him half to death and make him swallow pills. That's as far as we've gotten. Are you reading something we're not reading? Because this was written in September. How? In the comic book miniseries Alternate Reality, it's the Joker, cured of his insanity, who sees the Bruce Wayne is just another part of the city's vicious cycle of crime and sets out to stop him. Well, we don't know that either. We know he's after Batman, but we don't know it's Bruce Wayne. My main goal was to undo the comic tropes while changing Gotham from a comic book city into a real city. Because that's what everybody wants. They want Gotham City to be a real city. That's why they have the show Gotham, where people have freeze ray guns and other people are like part animal, because we want it to be just like a real city. Yeah, you dummy. A city dealing with everything from Black Lives Matter to the growing wage gap. So now we're throwing the wage gap in there. Murphy says this. But rather than write a comic about the wage gap, I give those ideas to the Joker, who leads a kind of media war against Gotham's elite by winning people over with his potent observations and rhetoric. Who does that sound like? Who does that sound like when you think about that? Just put that in the back of your mind. Despite the fact that their roles are reversed, having heroes and villains who exist as a response to the current political climate is very much in the brand for Batman. That could be argued. For nearly 8 decades, the Joker and Dark Knight have faced off in the comics and off-screen, and each time, whether they're brooding or cartoonish, they've come to represent the kind of good or bad guys their audience needs. In the 1940s, when the Joker was introduced in Batman #1, the idea of having a mass vigilante face-punching foes seems like a good way to fight crime. Well, he also used guns, too. You forgot about that. But in the decades since, society has learned that that's not always the best course of action. It's sexy to think crime can be stopped with a fist. But the real solution, why do they have to say things like that? Why do they have to throw it sexy in there? I mean, really? But the real solution is a lot more boring than that. Education, increased wages, and building trust. Increasing wages has never helped. Never. The line Batman rides between noble vigilante and overzealous oppressor will always be shifting in our own society change as our own society changes. I can't read. It's a little font. And like the creators of history's various Batman have changed with the times, they've also updated the Joker to suit their environs. I wish they quit using these words that normal people aren't going to know, like environs. Like just say to suit his environment. Over the years, he's been a sadistic psychopath and a giggling, greedy comedian, depending on the stories and the zeitgeist demands. Now we're putting zeitgeist in there. That's been true in the comic books and on screen. The original murderous conception of the character by Bill Finger and Jerry Robinson had to be toned when the Comics Code Authority was established in 1954. But in the 1970s, the dark murderous Joker came back. More recently, he reflected the outlandishness of the 1980s thanks to Jack Nicholson's portrayal in Tim Burton's Batman, one of my favorites, by the way. And the essential, what is he saying? Dread of the new millennium via Heath Ledger's performance in The Dark Knight. I think it's funny that he didn't talk about Jared Leto. And Murphy's latest version, which will hit comic books in stores October 4th, is just as apropos. At a time when protectors fail to protect and propaganda has immense power, protectors fail to protect. Think about that phrase, by the way. Propaganda has immense power. Very few stories in comics, at least, could be more of the moment than the series that shows Batman's vigilantism as part of a vicious cycle and the Joker's charisma as a marketing tool for the brand of justice. If you think about that, though, if you're going to go that route, then you would have to say that Black Lives Matter is bad, and what the politics and the presidency right now is good. If you're going by his standards, then, because Antifa and Black Lives Matter are the vigilantes. How come he's not talking about Antifa? That's a matter with today. You know why? Because he's a liberal. If he was going to talk about real things, he would talk about Antifa, but he's going to leave them out because that's a no-no word right now. We know the Joker is a genius. We know he's relentless, and we know he can play the crowd. Who is that talking about? Think about that. I'm not going to mention who it is, but think about who he's trying to talk about. So why not make him a politician? Murphy asked. Frank Miller modeled him after David Bowie. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Chris Nolan showed him as a controlled psychopath. I don't know. And it's funny that he goes from Frank Miller to Chris Nolan, which is, different kind of subject there. And then he says, I see Joker as Don Draper. Oh, goodness. So here's the deal. This really ruins it for me because now I'm going to be tainted as I read the comic book. I'm going to be looking for the faults. And it makes me sad because I really wanted to like this comic book because his art style is great. It almost makes me wonder if it'd been better off if he would just did the artwork and had somebody else write it that could be objective. Because you can't be objective if you state in the interview what you are. Okay, he says, well, I'm a liberal, and it's like, oh gosh. It's one of those things where you just want to go, can we not talk about politics in one interview in comic books today? Can we not do that? Can we leave it out? I know that, quote unquote, politics have always been in comic books. Yeah, but they've been a very light take on it to the point to where you almost forget it's there. When Captain America is fighting Skrulls, you're not thinking about wage gaps. Okay? When Batman is fighting the Court of the Owls, you're not thinking about Black Lives Matter. Okay? When Spider-Man is fighting Hobgoblin, you're not thinking about Antifa. Can we not just do comic books nowadays and you just kind of lightly touch on the subject and then in interviews say, well, I just really want to do this kind of take on Batman, blah, blah, blah. And just, why does it always have to be something that it's not? Why do you always have to take things too far? But I just want to talk about that and talk about the breadcrumbs that we should have saw leading up to this, and it makes me kind of worried about the deal here. But also, it goes to show. I want to talk about a side subject here. Evan Narcisse, the one that did the writing on the first article there, he is the one doing the new Rise of Black Panther that's coming out. Has no qualifications. Check out my video. And I really want to see on Twitter how he develops over the next couple of months, because his Twitter profile is obnoxious and he hasn't really done anything crazy in the last couple of days. But I guarantee you, over the next couple of months, after he has gotten this book and it's got established, he's going to turn into Ta-Nehisi Coates and Kwanzaa. You're going to see it happen. He's going to get the little bit of power and he's going to be blowing up on everybody. But anyway, that's just all I wanted to say about the subject. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button and hit that again so you get the little dinger thing so you don't miss any of my videos. Alright guys, Underground Geek out.